My name is Pravina Shukla. I'm associate professor in the Department of Folklore and Ethnomusicology. My parents are from India. I was born in Norway. I grew up in Brazil. My whole life has been experiencing different cultures and different customs, different ways of eating and living and being. Material culture can be understood as the creation of something out of nature, taking clay, using water, using fire to make a pot, for example, or the creation of things out of culture, this notion of assemblage, of putting things together. I'm interested in the exhibition as things that are put together, things that somebody had originally made in some other country, let's say, put together into the context of an exhibition. And when you get dressed, you do the same thing. You create an assemblage on your body of things that have been produced, whether it's mass-produced or handmade. It all comes together into a meaningful thing that takes meaning in the moment in which you are not only creating in your bedroom, but also expressing yourself in all the social contexts in which you are seen and are performing. In The Grace of Four Moons, a book I wrote about Indian dress, I look at a lot of different individuals. And I was interested in looking at the men who are goldsmiths and weavers, the men who are merchants, and then the women who adorn themselves. Right now I'm writing a book about costume. I've written half of it, and the chapter on Swedish costume, there's one particular individual that I spent a lot of time with. Her name is Kirsti Jobs Björklof. She's lived in the same farm that her family has owned since the 16th century. She still wears the folk costumes for church and midsummer events and baptisms, but yet she was a director of the local museum. She's traveled all over, so she's a contemporary, modern, wonderful person who understands the importance of her tradition and keeps both of them going with no conflict. One example of the joys of fieldwork is in The Grace of Four Moons, a book about Indian dress. Once I look at how something is made and sold and bought, I'm interested in the creation of the presentation of the self through putting all these things together. I went and interviewed a family, a woman, her sister-in-law, her mother-in-law, her daughter, and her niece. And I was very excited. I thought, here we have 5 women and me. We're all going to sit together and have a wonderful interview. I got there, I had almost envisioned writing this chapter, that all these different voices, generations. I went in there, nobody wanted to say anything except the one woman. The old lady didn't want to say anything, the young girls left, they weren't even interested in what I was talking about. I came home shattered. I was really upset that that chapter had just, what I wanted was these 5 women talking. And Nina, the woman I interviewed, who is now in chapter 10 of my book, and she kept saying, I'm just really not interested in it. And I thought that was just a failed interview. And then I came home and looked at that particular interview in the context of other interviews. And at that moment, I realized I wasn't there to get interviews of all the women who really loved jewelry. I was there to understand the continuum and the range of possibility. Those people are not informants, they're your teachers. They teach you about the culture that they're experts in, that you're there learning from them so you can come back, write a book, do a museum exhibition, teach a lecture in a classroom, and teach everybody else about the culture that they're experts in. One of the most satisfying things for me on a weekly basis is I teach a graduate course once a week. So I'm in a classroom with very bright graduate students. That's one of the highlights of my week. The other 2 days of the week, I teach undergraduates. What I like about that class is I'm teaching 2 populations at once. To the undergraduates, I'm teaching about folklore. To my graduate student teaching assistants, I'm teaching them how to teach folklore. And interacting with them, helping devising a way of teaching the undergraduates about folklore is very satisfying, and I have that experience twice a week. The other day, I teach my graduate course, invigorating questions. I see people really progressing and learning a lot, and that's just a wonderful part of the week. And the rest of the week, I am working on my own research. I get to read and write the chapter and transcribe tapes, and it's just a wonderful thing to do.